resolution.
I
would
have
say.
to agree with a little bit of conversation here. You know, I think they're draining the lake program. I think this is probably their last hurrah on
Good
this,
point.
that you've tried about every avenue possible. And that I think that I can support this, I feel, because of the fact that I do think our county roads and stuff are affected, and the cost of $200,000 will be minimal if this keeps going up and up and up. And the 200,000 is not at stake unless the project goes through. So I think I can agree with that, because I think I can get the $200,000 back out if they get their project, which they've got to pay an awful lot for, that the $200,000 for what it'll do for our roads is immaterial.
Mr. Chair, can we have Mr. Bukowski come forward, please?
Okay.
I need to find the right draft resolution, so if you give me a second, they're all named the same thing, and so I'm struggling with this here.
Commissioner Jelinski.
I'm just wondering for conversation,
Yeah.
this board, I don't remember when, we talked about turn off the faucet, and this board said yes to a $200,000 project, with the caveat, if you will, kind of, that insinuated that we would probably get $100,000 back on that project once the pumping project would be done, and we would sell the remaining, or the articles that were there, thus bringing this to a $100,000 project. Call it whatever we want to, but that's what it ultimately would be. Today, I just want to make sure that I'm on the right page. We're really, we can call it whatever project we want to, it doesn't matter. We're really going back to saying 200,000 and we're going to spend 200,000.
That's what I'm saying. But
I just want to know that I'm kind of
that's
on
what
that
I'm
right
saying.
page. Because I was good with it whenever this took place, X number of weeks and months ago, with the 200,000 understanding we were going to get 100,000 back.
Mr. Chair? Oh, yep, you're right.
Today it
Go ahead.
just
Sorry.
perhaps changed just a little tiny bit,
Well, just 100,000.
just 100,000. And, you know, we've been talking about grades and steps and,
Yeah.
okay, very good, thank you.
Steve, would you want to give us a little update what your thinking is here?
And funding.
I think if we go back to when the representatives of the emergency task force came to the board and presented what, you know, their position was on what was going on, and the fact that the county believed that we needed to provide some support to an area up there which was having the problems that they were, and what our role in protecting the health, safety, and welfare of the public. And we looked at, one of the first things I presented to the board was data on the lake level of Chaminade over almost a 80-year period of time, all the way back to the 60s. And although it fluctuates up and down, the trend was very clear, that Lake Chaminade water level is going to go up. It's going up, and so as I looked at that and I discussed that to the board, my whole thought process behind that was that our infrastructure out there eventually is going to be impacted by what's occurring. And so when we began to work on acquiring easement and right-of-way and drainage rights for the Shut Off the Faucet project, we had some people that were opposed to it. One of the things we presented to them is what happened to the water level, and when County Road 203 was built, Culvert 2, we had 3 foot of separation between that culvert and the lake level. When we were negotiating with the property owner, essentially at the high point, that culvert and the lake level were the same. So now our road grade is saturated. It was doing exactly what it anticipated. It's not going away. We hope maybe it would go away, and there probably were times when it would go down and maybe would, but eventually it came back, and it's continuing in that direction. So my recommendation was based on protecting infrastructure. It was based on what was happening to the township roads there. The 200,000, we laid out what we believed we could do to try to support this, and our whole intention was to try and provide an interim break from it getting any worse while this project developed and actually was successful. Yes, we ran into a couple of property owners that we were unable to resolve drainage rights to, and so we stalled out. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't need to continue to support to try to resolve this, because we do. We have a vested interest in what we have up there to try to make this work.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Blaine.
So when, Commissioner Lemire, when we're looking at this $200,000, and I'm going to look at it as an investment that would be made by the county, in this language, is it directed, is that money directed to the lid? Is it directed to Todd County? Is it directed to a specific, it's got to be going somewhere. Where is this money going?
Mr. Chair, that would be up to us. I think, it would be, my personal opinion, I think we should move forward with it as a county township infrastructure issue also, and direct to Todd County. Not go through the lid to Todd County. I think it would be best if we just worked with Todd County on it myself.
And so, if I may, Mr. Chair? So, Commissioner Lemire, and Mr. Bukowski, the 200,000 going directly to Todd County would utilize that money for, how do you see that?
I believe, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the reason that the lid is making the request is on the basis of the same thing that you, when you are the ditch authority, and you hold your hearings and informational meetings, and we have to expend funds to repair a ditch because there's something wrong, that it gets assessed across those properties. If the lid made a donation, essentially, if this all went through to County Ditch 41, those funds would be sitting there for maintenance actions and repairs that could be made on Ditch 41 that would benefit all the benefiting properties along that ditch, which is really an advantage to those folks that I think gives credibility what the lid is asking for, that we can dump some extra water into that system. So I would agree with Commissioner Lemire that if it all comes together, that it be a donation to the County Ditch 41 Maintenance Fund.
Okay.
It's specific for that ditch. It benefits all the benefiting properties on it, plus it benefits the fact that the residents of Lake Shamana can dump some water into the system.
Okay, very good. I appreciate that, and that's important for me to know. I guess the other question I would have is, and I'm looking to Deb, and if I'm interrupting you, I apologize.
Nope.
I'm just, in your discussion with Attorney John Kolb, my initial concern when this first came up was concern about setting precedent on sending cash to another county on this. When he reviewed this, he didn't share that same concern. Is that correct?
Well, precedent setting isn't exactly a legal question all the time, but in this instance, you're evaluating the situation as it exists. You're kind of taking and weighing those types of specific and individual components of it. The exact situation and the likelihood that it's going to come up again is probably not the case. I think the argument where you talk about precedents could be made if, say, a ditch that we're wanting to do work on needs cleaning, and whether or not general tax funds would be put towards funding that, and what the reasoning is behind all of that. And, I think one can argue the public infrastructure risk that exists for not helping to abate the situation is there. The ability to be able to have this project be successful relies on residents of Todd County recognizing that and well, helping. And so, they don't have an obligation to do that outside of just recognizing that they would play a part in an overall solution to help, the situation and make it better. And so, you know, I get what you're saying, and that's something unfortunately you're gonna have to grapple with, but I do believe it's reasonable to have this be, recognized as a way to help alleviate the demands that are gonna be placed on the ditch, if there are demands that are there. So that's where.
I think that I think it also falls in line with the petition process, because in the petition process, a lump sum like this could be the price that was set. It doesn't necessarily have to be assessments across all kinds of properties. So I think it is a very unique situation, and whether it's precedent setting or not, I think it would have to be evaluated from the perspective of what we're dealing with up there and the damage that we're seeing and the potential for future damage.
And I agree with you, Steve, on that, and I think this is, you know, this issue is its own giant fruit pie all in itself, that we probably, and God save us that we would ever have to deal with something like this again in the future, but that's where it gives me comfort that John didn't, that Mr. Kolb didn't put that as a red flag in reviewing this, and I think it makes this more palatable to invest $200,000. What we're doing is we're basically buying a hedge against against future damage to our infrastructure up there. And I'm all right with that, even though from the time I came on this board a couple of years ago, this board's taken a pretty distinct position in the fact that we've granted a taxing authority to address issues within Lake Shamana, and have given that lid board the opportunity to engage in a lot of activity to try and address some things. And I think, over time, we've gotten to a point now where we're, like you said, this might be our last shot at this, and if we're that close, but also the realization that the high water on the lake is not only affecting just the properties on the lake, but also the infrastructure of residents that aren't necessarily on the lake too. And so I think that's, that makes this easier. It makes this easier to swallow, and probably makes this a more strategic hedge going forward too, with a $200,000 investment.
Okay, just like Deb's got a,
If you want, I can address what changes I'd recommend based upon the discussion that Mike and had. Is that all right?
Yep, that'd be great.
The two of them being that whole one watershed, one plan component, where there were two whereases, so to speak, that I'd recommend, just because that plan's not accepted yet. The two that would be suggested to remove were, whereas Lake Shamana is part of the Fish Trap Creek, Todd County Ditch 41 Long Prairie watershed, and the Lake Shamana High Water Outlet Project is consistent with the stated issues of the one watershed, one plan. Again, I don't disagree with that, except it's not adopted yet. And so, in case there would be changes during that process, I'd hate to say that it's 100% there. And the other one would be, whereas Lake Shamana is part of the larger Long Prairie River watershed in Morrison County, and the LSLID wish to work with Todd County in support of a healthy watershed in Todd County Ditch 41. Again, I don't disagree, except for that whole watershed isn't defined. The process isn't played out yet to have that defined. And then the additions, I think that might make sense based upon what Commissioner Lemire and I talked about, and then kind of maybe some comments that I just heard with, from the other folks, is the whereas Morrison County has expended staff resources to assist with flooded properties around Lake Shamana, to enforce the no-wake zone imposed on the lake due to flooding, and is concerned about the impact to the integrity of public infrastructure, including the county road system, if the flooding isn't mitigated and the problem isn't addressed with a long-term solution. And then the other change that I think, might warrant some more discussion from your viewpoint, board, is the now therefore be it resolved paragraph. Now therefore be it resolved, the Morrison County Board of Commissioners, for the purposes of supporting the Lake Shamana Lake Improvement District, maintaining the economic welfare of the county, ensuring safe and long-lasting public infrastructure, including the county road system, and assisting with alleviating the flooding on Scandia Valley Township infrastructure, and for the citizens in the area, will contribute the value from the Morrison County General Reserve Fund, or I would propose the Public Works Reserve Fund, because it is tied to the road infrastructure, as Steve mentioned, to the General Fund of Lake Shamana Improvement District for the maintenance of Todd County Ditch 41, or again, the discussion is the Todd County Ditch 41 Maintenance Fund, whether you wanted it to go to the Lake Improvement District or via the Lake Improvement District to Todd County or directly. Both are completely acceptable. To offset costs incurred upon the award of a construction contract for the Lake Shamana High Water Project. So here's a couple questions about how you want to do it, but I think the language recommendations kind of were about what we had talked about, if I encompass them correctly.
Yes,
Okay,
very good.
Commissioner Lemire?
I don't know where I was gonna go somewhere else, but, do you want me to give you my 2 cents on this? I think we should leave it to 200,000, and if Steve, do you have the funds available in the Public Works Reserve Fund where we were gonna take the money from?
We had
Being
anticipated that it
infrastructure?
was coming out of there. It just never manifested itself.
Yep, okay, so I would propose out of the Public Works Reserve Fund, and the other one, what's the difference between the maintenance of Todd Ditch County 41 or the Todd County Ditch 41 Maintenance Fund? What's the difference? Or Steve, where should it go? Do you know the difference?
That was just me typing two different
I'm
things.
not sure if it
Part
is.
of that was the first part of that statement was going to the lid, or the second part of it was going directly to Todd County for.
I think it should go directly to Todd County. So, I don't know if you can make that.
Yep, and I probably just, when I included the word maintenance and the other I didn't, and that was just because, I don't know why.
Only if they get the approval moving forward with,
So in that case, that money would just sit in Public Works, and if they come with, hey, we got her all going, then that money would be just.
and if I could just add one more thing, this isn't the first time you had to deal with the flooding issue with we've used county dollars for the Fletcher Creek project years ago. I remember you and I having a discussion on that a couple of years ago.
I mean, when we have flooding, we are gonna have damage. We have personal or private property damage, and we have public property damage. And
Yep.
we're not trying to figure it out when it's happening. We're trying to get things fixed so people can continue to live their lives.
Thank
That's
you.
what we do.
And this
Thank
will
you.
never, this flooding on Lake Shamana will never be something that will be addressed by FEMA, contrary to our 1 in 1,500 year rain event that we had last, June 28th or 29th of last year, that we had
Exactly.
damage within the county?
Yeah, exactly.
Commissioner Jelinski, did you have a question about 10 minutes ago?
And Mr. Chair, I actually do, but I've been holding my breath and it's
Okay,
okay.
sounds good.
Sorry, Commissioner Johnson.
No, good grief, no, not a problem. And this is probably one of those crazy ones. But is there a date limit? And let me follow up when I say date limit. In respect to my friends in Todd County, and certainly in respect to my friends at Lake Shamana, we start this pumping project tomorrow. And it pumps for 3 years. And the 4th year happens to be a wet, bad year. And obviously, we start pumping again on April 15th, whenever the dates would be. Doesn't make any difference. And all of a sudden, there's a petition in Todd County by ditch owners, ditch owners, that are saying, we're sick of this. It's out of hand, it's too much, whatever it might be. Can Todd County say, that's it, Morrison County, lid, actually Morrison County, that's where it's coming from. Can they say, no more water, and then what?
I think
It's
as
just
a-
a dumb question, maybe, I
Well,
don't know.
I think as a part of the petition process, those are the things that goes through.
Okay.
They hold their public hearings, benefited property owners get to have their input.
Okay.
Whether there's gonna be conditions, those type of things attached to it, I think that's when that all comes out.
Okay.
And there's a potential for all that. I think this has the safeguard in, they have to work through all of that and have a viable project before the revenues that you are going to provide, they get.
And I'm asking that question probably out of, in all honesty, stupidity, I don't know. But in respect to my friends in Todd County, and God forbid, in respect to my friends at Lake Shamana, if all of a sudden, yep, it's a go, and it's a go for 2 years, whatever, X, Y, Z, and then there's a whoops, stop, probably a new problem that just happened, be it for what it might be. Anyway, that was my question, thank you.
Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you. Anyway, again, I understand what Lake Shamana, and we're looking at, again, Commissioner Lemire said, or Steve said that, we could have county road problems, and we're looking down to forward. I'm just gonna throw this out as a comment. I mean, we've had other, entities in the last few months request money from the county because of flooding, because of erosion. So I guess is a question, are we gonna set a precedence here? And again, I understand, I mean, the tax dollars and all that, but if we give X amount of dollars to Lake Shamana because of the flooding, erosion, safety, all those things, what answer are we gonna have to the, and I hope you all know who I'm talking about here in our area. They want help for their erosion problems. So are we gonna say no, or are we gonna continue saying yes? That's just a discussion out there.
Commissioner Wincher, I guess I would answer that is I'm not giving this money to Lake Shamana. I'm giving this money for a security that if we can get ditch 41 opened up and the pumping process starts, that helps us up there for our infrastructure to go to 41. That's what I'm looking at this. The money is not to go to Lake Shamana, and it'll only be spent if ditch 41's used. And that might be the money that's needed for those people to clean the ditch up there in 41 and to give us that approval to get it started. And once we've got it started, then that's the way I'm looking at that. So.
I think all along, Commissioner Wincher, it has had those ties to our infrastructure and the public's cost to maintain infrastructure that may be inundated in water compared to it being in dry and the way it is supposed to function.
And then my last point, and Commissioner Jelinski made that one, is we approved the 200,000, and obviously I did too, but on getting $100,000 possibly back, where was that money? How are we gonna get that 100,000 back? No, I'm talking about the old, right, this way we won't.
selling the
by
pipes and the
Right,
pumps.
so that, in this case, yeah.
I see, yeah. The intention was that, we knew that going into it, we anticipated that our project was gonna be temporary. That wasn't a totally given, because under
yep.
certain conditions, it maybe would have went further. But when it did terminate, we were gonna be able to sell piping, we'd be able to sell pumps, that equipment, and that's where the return would have come from.
And my final comment, Mr. Chair, is again, yeah, we are reducing the tax dollars just because of the flooding. And that affects, so again, I'm sure we all get some phone calls, well, why are you giving money here? Well, we're losing tax dollars up there just because of this reason, because of the flooding. We have to, there's, again, Commissioner Lemire can hopefully agree with me. There's places there you can't even walk to anymore, so how do you sell something that has no
You
tax
see
dollars?
two of them right in front of you tonight.
So those are things that, this, again, should be well money spent. Hopefully, do we understand that this money will not be used unless they get their permits and all that good stuff all the way through, then it would be.
Commissioner Lemire, what was your motion going to be now?
My motion is going to be to approve this resolution that is before us at this time.
Okay, could I get a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is this a roll call by any chance?
That probably is a good idea, yes.
Okay, Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson, aye. Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher? And Commissioner Jelinski?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, Mr. Chair, I will work with our friends over at Todd County to let them know that this passed, and I'll certainly get a signed copy over to you guys once that's done today. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your patience.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Wilson? I'm taking a potty break.
Okay, we gotta
I
take a,
just, okay,
he's gotta go back.
yep.
We'll just take a break. Go ahead quick and do what you gotta do, and, you have more, Deb?
I do.
Okay,
But we have schedules, and then I've got a closed session identified, so
you got, yes, that's right.
I would like to do schedules ahead of that closed session resolution, so then we can.
May I interrupt?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, guys.
Okay, what we have left is our schedules.
Schedules, do ahead of time, and then yes. Yep.
What are the dates for the schedule?
Tabitha has them.
See you later, Terry.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Mike.
You're awesome. Thanks for your
Hey,
patience.
we're gonna keep it working. Help.
All right,
For
yep.
all your help.
You're welcome. Take care. I gotta go to the bathroom.
Yep, everybody.
I just texted Tabitha. I'll try to get that. Thank you, Greg.
Mark, we're not done yet. Well, all she's gotta do, no, I'll tell you what, all we're doing now is our schedules. Yeah. And then, we're having a closed session for review, for Deb's, performance review.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean,
Did she mute the mics?
I don't know.
Probably
Okay,
not. No, I'm hanging out until you go to closed session.
okay, sounds good. As soon as they get back here, we'll do our calendars and we'll be done.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark. This place picks everything up pretty good, too.
Finally found out what's behind that door last week. Because that's where we went to wait after we got our shot.
Oh, yeah. Just kind of some hallways,
Hallway, and then there's a door out.
yeah. That goes out back by the dumpsters, kind of, don't it? Yeah, in the back of the sheriff's office, I think. I think.
Yeah, it was really efficient the way they had us go through here, all the stations.
Yeah, everything. I'll tell you, the remodeling made a big difference on how things flow around here. Yeah, it's been good upstairs and everything, so.
It's really weird.
When did she start?
Guys, our mics are on.
Oh, that's fine. So when did she start,
A month ago?
and she, I mean, this has only started a month ago? Or she's had symptoms prior to
Well,
that?
she said TMJ, whatever
Okay,
that
yeah.
means, forever. But, yeah, it's weird.
No kidding.
That's a fact, just weird.
And then they're doing, therapy with stuff like that, huh? Can she self-do it too?
Oh, sure. Oh,
You're
sure.
waiting on coffee, but we just gotta go through schedules. May 9th through
Is
the
it done?
22nd. He was making it. I didn't think
Oh,
we wanted more. I'm
I didn't
sorry.
think we did either. But I really,
Just gotta do our schedules.
just our schedules. We have more than, get for break. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I forgot. I posted about this.
No, they're not.
You don't have.
Not to the actual outside, but yeah.
We're maskless.
Yep, the 9th through the 22nd is what she'll be
9th
asking
through the
for.
22nd?
Yep. She's
then-
online and getting this, it's just, she's not, you know.
Tabitha is?
Tabitha is, yeah.
Hi, Tabitha.
So now you can talk.
Oh, we're in May.
Yes, we're going to be, our calendars, next is our committee reports and upcoming schedules. We're going from May 9th through the 22nd.
Can I just throw an apology out to Mark? The first time I remembered the break thing and the second time it was gone. See, I told you, it's so hard to remember that.
Forgot to remind you.
What were the days again?
The 9th
the
through the
22nd.
22nd. Commissioner Jelinski, would you lead us through this?
I certainly will. Starting on the 11th at 8:30 in the morning, there's a planning meeting here at the Government Center. At 10 or 10:30, I can't remember, there's a budget meeting here at the Government Center. At 6 PM, same date, there's a Planning Commission Board of Adjustments. On the 12th, at 11 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Executive Committee meeting, and at 8:30, there's also a department head meeting. On the 14th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board meeting, a RAC meeting, and that is virtual, as is the one on the 12th is virtual. Nobody cares about that. On the 18th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, there's a county board meeting here at the Government Center. And at 6 PM, I have a District 2 Ag zoning meeting with Miss Amy Kowalczyk here at the boardroom. And that is one of those meetings that we've all had where your townships gather, okay? But mine's gonna be at 6 o'clock that evening. On the 19th, at 3:30 in the afternoon, there's a State Emergency Communications Board Chairs Executive Committee, and that's virtual, and that's the first one of those that I've ever gonna be on. At 5 PM, I've got a Hands of Hope meeting. On the 20th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Owners and Operators meeting. That's right, and on the 22nd, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Blaine.
So, on May 12th at 2:30 PM, I have a Region 5 Exec Board meeting. And on the 19th, from 3 to 4:30, I have a Community Health Board meeting, and I'm going to assume both of those meetings are going to be virtual. And Tabitha, if you're listening, I know you called me and I did not get your call in time to get back to you, but I will either see you or call you this afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Blaine. I have community development on the 18th at 12:15, and that's virtual. And on the 19th, I got a CHB board meeting, and that's going to be virtual too. And that's all I think I have, Tabitha.
Mr. Chair, I missed one other thing. The 20th, on May 20th, will be the Egg Society meeting at 7 PM.
Okay, thank you.
Where's that at?
That will be here at the courthouse.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Lemire.
The 10th at 5:30, Yellow Ribbon. And the 19th, Public Health. Both of them are, I don't know, Zoom is one, and I don't know what the other one's called. But they're both online.
Okay, Commissioner Wincher, is there anything left?
Yeah, I got a couple here. On the 11th, I have a collaborative meeting with Northern Pines Social Service and Law Enforcement. That'll be here at 3 o'clock, here at the courthouse. That's one on the 11th at 3 o'clock. On the 17th, this is kind of open to everybody, but I'll be heading in there too. There's a nitrate testing at the Soil and Water. That's all day. So you can bring your water in and get your nitrate tested at Soil and Water. That'll be for 3 days, the 17th, 18th, or 4 days, all week. So 17th, you can bring some faucet water in and get that tested.
Mr. Chair, isn't that here? Or did
The-
they change that?
Yes,
Yeah, it's
Yes.
here,
Okay.
but it's here, yeah, okay.
I just want to, if anybody's listening, it is at our location at the Government Center.
Yeah, so it's all week long, so anybody out there in TV land can bring their water in to get tested. On the 18th at 5 o'clock, I got Great River Regional Library meeting. And on the 20th, I have TCC at 5:30, and that buttons me up.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda, I think we have, we're going to have a close, excuse me, we're going to have a closed session for employee evaluation.
Yes, yep. Based upon statute, the ability to close a session exists for the review of the performance of those that directly report to you, and that's me, and that's time of year again. So the resolution in the board packet would be up for consideration.
You got to get a motion in there, right?
Yep.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Lemire. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed, motion carries.
And then we'll take a quick break. We have to set